Let us talk about the climate change issues, which is mainly in association with the various weather extremes we are going to discuss today. As we know, the Earth's climate change during the Earth's climate changes, which is impacting the various weather extremes all over the planet Earth, and in which certain examples can be quoted like record-breaking heat situations on land in different parts of the countries, erratic rainfall, severe floods, different, we can say prolonged droughts in different condition, extreme wildfires, widespread flooding during the hurricanes. These are all becoming very much common, more frequent and more intense due to the climatic changes. Human actions, if we see since the industrial revolution, primarily the burning of fossil fuels that have caused the greenhouse gases to increase rapidly in the atmosphere, like carbon dioxide, methane, or other greenhouse gases which are increasing at a faster rate. They are acting as a blanket which is trapping the heat and warming the planet. In response to the Earth's air and ocean temperature that are also being warmed up and temperature is increasing. This warming affects the water cycle, shifts the weather patterns, and even melts the land ice. All impacts that can make extreme weather events more worse. So when the fossil fuels are burned for electricity, heat, transportation, carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that traps solar radiation is released in our atmosphere. Over the past century, we can see the massive increase in the carbon dioxide has taken place and released into the atmosphere. And also the not only carbon dioxide, but even the methane and other greenhouse gas emissions have been monitored at a higher rate. This spike in the global temperature due to the greenhouse gases is fueling various climate disasters that is not only getting worse day by day, and it becomes very much pertinent, important, and necessary to take certain actions regarding this. That's why the experts are warning that they're running out of time to dramatically cut pollution in order to avoid the certain climatic catastrophes. The climate change significantly, it influences the frequency, it influences the intensity and nature of different weather extremes. As we know that the global temperature is rising due to the rise in the greenhouse gas emissions, various weather patterns are altered, leading to a variety of extreme weather events. Here, some of the key patterns of different weather extremes can be discussed in detail. For example, we may talk about increased frequency and intensity of different weather extremes, like climate change leads to more frequent and severe heat waves. We may talk about because of higher average temperature, which results in prolonged period of extreme heat, putting public health risk and increasing energy demand for cooling. It has a various impacts on the health. Particularly, the heat waves have the various impact on the health of the human beings, like heat-related illnesses exacerbate existing health situations may exacerbate and increase in the mortality rates can be recorded, particularly among the vulnerable population, such as the elderly and those with the pre-existing some health issues. We might also give examples for the extreme hots, which get more hotter. For example, as global temperature is rising, the hottest temperature and the number of areas which are impacted by the extreme heat are also rising. That means more scorching hot days in more places, and that have been already monitored, and various examples can be coined. In California, Death Valley, this July, the thermometers neared the hottest temperature ever recorded, hovering up to 130 degrees. That same month, the average global temperature hit an all-time high in various places. It's not just the individual hot days are breaking records. There is an overall, we can say, warming trend can be observed in various places. For example, you can take the example of Texas cities of Austin and Houston. For example, over the past 50 years, Austin has seen the number of days with temperature above 100 degree Fahrenheit increase by 1 month, while Houston has recorded an additional month with temperature above 95 degree Fahrenheit. In California, temperature are estimated to have increased 3 degree Fahrenheit in the past century. Through, uh, through this century, the scientist predicts a hotter temperature, more frequent and intense heat waves, and in every region of United States and various other parts of the world, which can lead to certain blackouts. It also poses a serious health threat, especially for the most vulnerable people. In continuation, we may also discuss about the heavy precipitation and flooding. Seeing its increased intensity, we know that the warmer air holds more moisture as compared to cold air, which leads to heavier rainfall events, which can result in more intense storms and increased risk of flooding. When we talk about urban flooding, like urban areas with their impervious surfaces are particularly susceptible to flooding as heavy rain overwhelms the drainage system and increases the risk of flash floods. River flooding, for example, which increases in the increased precipitation can lead to the higher river flows, which may result into flooding that damages various infrastructure, agriculture, and ecosystem. These warmer temperature, this drives increase in the precipitation, particularly. As I have said, the warm air has the characteristics to hold more moisture. So warmer air increases evaporation, which means that our atmosphere contains an increasing amount of water vapor for storms to sweep up and turn into rain or snow. Just as if we talk about the drier area, uh, we may think about the drier areas which are likely to get drier with rising global temperatures. Those areas of the world that have historically trended towards heavy precipitation will only get wetter. For example, every rainfall and flash flooding in the northeast during the July 2023 that caused tens of millions of dollars inundated Vermont state's capital with knee-high waters and killed at least one person. New rain estimates, which was issued in 2023, that also indicated that 12.6 million properties across the United States that were not previously thought to be a flood risk now are due to the increased likelihood of extreme precipitation events. So these are the few examples you can quote for this erratic rainfall due to the climate change. Not only we are talking about the heat waves or the erratic rainfall pattern, but also in certain extreme weather events, we may also discuss about the drought condition, which is very much becoming common day by day with the change of the climate. The frequency and severity of drought condition is increasing due to the changes in the precipitation pattern and higher temperature, which leads to the prolonged droughts in various regions. This affects water supply, agriculture, and natural ecosystem. Not only this, the drought condition is also impacting the agriculture because it can reduce the crop yields. It can also lead to food insecurity and economic losses for farmers and agricultural communities. Drought also leads to the water scarcity. The prolonged droughts strain freshwater resources, impacting the drinking water supplies. Even the supplies to the irrigation and ecosystem health is being impacted by the drought condition. The drought condition is persisting in various places with the change of the climate. Higher temperature also leads to the drier condition. We have already discussed this. And when global temperature rise, moisture evaporates from the water bodies and the soils. Like droughts in United States and elsewhere in the world have become more severe, long lasting. In fact, the American West is currently in the midst of a mega drought that ranks among the worst in the past 1200 years, even after the heavy rainfall of 2023. Much of the region is currently facing extreme or exceptional drought condition. So here we can quote a very good example of this particular region. Discussing about another event like hurricane, we have seen severe increase in its intensity and in its destructive nature also means severity has been also increased in terms of the hurricanes. Warmer ocean temperature, which mainly fuels more intense tropical storms and the hurricanes, which leads to the very stronger winds, heavier rainfall, and higher storm surges. This condition increases the destruction. It enhances the storm intensity, which results in the great damage to the infrastructure, not only to the infrastructure, but also to the property, ecosystems, as well as increased cost associated with the recovery and rebuilding efforts. All these things leads to various, we can say, amounting losses. Changing the storm patterns are even also changing. The climate change is altering the tracks of these storms, affecting the regions which were not previously considered, which were not previously affected by the storms and even considered safe from the severe weather conditions. The storms are becoming day very intense. Hurricanes are growing more powerful as we know that the global temperature is rising because these storm systems draw their energy from the warm ocean water. So, rise in global temperature will lead to the warmer ocean water and through which the hurricanes and storms can derive energy. For example, in September 2024, Hurricane Helene caused historic flooding across the southeast United States, killing many people and leaving millions without power. Earlier in summer, the Gulf Coast endured Hurricane Beryl, the earliest Category 5 hurricane on the record, which fueled by exceptionally warm ocean water. So the scientists warn that our climate is warming. Storms will not only become stronger but they will also intensify faster. Not only the warmer condition can lead to the more intense storm, but even we can have example of winter storms which is hitting harder. Even due to the climate change, which is raising the average global temperature, that does not spell the end of the winters. Overall, winters are getting milder and shorter but recent winters have brought intense snowstorms and record-breaking frost. As a result, average global sea levels has increased 8 inches in the last 150 years, which is we can say a great increase for several changes. While it may seem contradictory that climate change may be contributing to more extreme winter weather, as the warming atmosphere traps water vapor later and later into the air. That precipitation leads to heavier snowfall when the temperature do drop. So these are the few facts about how the change in the climate is impacting or intensifying the storm situation in different places. A very important event we can discuss here about the wildfires. It's due to the changes in the climate, the intensity and severity and the numbers in the wildfire is increasing. The warmer temperatures, prolonged dry spells, and change in the vegetation that increases the likelihood of the wildfires. Fire seasons are becoming longer and more intense in many of the regions, particularly in western United States and parts of Australia. Already we have seen example this January of LA wildfire. These wildfires does not impact only the biodiversity or we can say the wildlife inhabiting in it, but also it impacts the air quality, which releases large amounts of smoke and pollutants in the atmosphere, which leads to poor air quality, health issues to the nearby population, and the main impact already we have seen that the loss of biodiversity is very much pertinent due to the wildfires, due to the habitat destruction and loss of various biodiversity takes place, affecting the wildlife and overall we can say ecosystem health. If we take certain examples, the wildfires have always been a natural part of life in particularly in the Western United States and Canada. However, this region grows hotter and drier with the changing climate. Wildfires are growing in size, ferocity, and speed. The hazardous air pollution that wildfire smoke creates can spread far beyond the region burned. In summer 2023, smoke wafting down and nearly 900 wildfires. Even we can give more examples from the California and different parts of this particular region and different parts of the Australia, etc. So these are the few of the we can say extreme weather events mainly which is affected by the climate change. Not only this, one of the very important event that is we can see due to the climate change is the sea level rise. And whenever we talk about the climate change, we used to discuss about the sea level rise. Mainly, this sea level rise is impacting the increase in the coastal flooding. The rising sea levels, particularly due to the melting glaciers, due to the rising temperatures, and which causes the thermal expansion of seawater, which can exacerbate coastal flooding, leading to the damage to the infrastructures, ecosystems, and even the human settlements. Not only this, uh, the saltwater intrusions can be also observed due to the rising sea level, which causes salt water to intrude into the freshwater aquifers, which impacts the drinking water supplies and even the agricultural land. Increased coastal erosion is also pertinent due to the sea level rise, which threatens the coastal habitat and the human development, leading to the habitat loss and displacement of the communities. As the planet is warming, ocean waters are also warming and expanding. At the same time, warmer temperatures are causing land ice, think glaciers and the ice caps, to melt, which is adding the water to the world's ocean. As a result, what is happening? The average global sea level has increased 8 inches in the last 150 years. Overall, the Atlantic coast of the United States and the Gulf of Mexico are experiencing some of the highest sea level rise in the world, which combined with the record rainfall has led to the catastrophic flooding. Lots of changes are also taking place in the atmospheric circulation due to the climate change. Like there are various shifts in the weather patterns have been observed, like changes in the seasonal weather, prolonged period of drought condition, rainfall, and more extreme temperature fluctuations can be observed due to the changing climate. Even there is lot of increase in variability can be observed. The climate warms, weather patterns may become more variable, leading to unexpected and extreme weather events, complementing, complicating the planning and the response efforts. So after seeing the impact of various, we can say, climate change on various weather extremes in terms of the sea level changes, in terms of the increasing intensity of the storms, droughts, flooding, etc. Let us discuss about the impact of climate change on sea level changes in detail. We know that the climate change is significantly impacting the sea levels through various mechanisms, particularly through the thermal expansion of seawater and the melting of ice sheets and the glaciers. These are two important mechanisms through which sea level changes are taking place. First one is thermal expansion of the seawater, and the second one is melting of ice sheets and the glaciers. These processes are contributing to the rising sea levels and which can also have very much profound effects on the coastal communities, ecosystems, and the economies. So let us discuss in detail. If we talk about its first mechanism, that is the thermal expansion, uh, mostly the we know due to the change in the temperature or rising global temperature, oceans are warming. As the global temperature is rising, the ocean water warms and it expands. This process is known as thermal expansion, and this process particularly contributes to the sea level rise. Means the water molecules are expanding due to the warming of the oceans, and this warming of the oceans is taking place due to the global rise in temperature. This is how it is connected with the climate change. If we see to the magnitude of the contribution, the thermal expansion has accounted for about half of the observed sea level rise over the past century. Means major sea rise is contributed due to this thermal expansion. As we know that temperature will continue to rise, the contribution to the thermal expansion is expected to rise even in future. The second mechanism which contribute to the rise in the sea level is the melting of ice sheets and the glaciers. Mainly, if we take the examples of the Greenland ice sheet, the Greenland ice sheet is melting at an accelerated rate due to the rising temperatures. It contributes significantly to global sea level rise as large volumes of fresh water flow into the oceans. And even if we talk about the Antarctic ice sheets, the Antarctic ice sheet is also losing mass primarily through the melting of its ice shelves and the glaciers. And this loss is particularly driven by the warmer ocean waters, thus eroding the undersides of the ice shelves and which increases the surface melting. Even if you talk about the glacial retreat, various glaciers all over the worldwide, particularly if you talk about the Himalayan glaciers, Alps, and Rockies, which are retreating at a very faster rate. The melting of these glaciers also add lot of fresh water to the oceans, which also contributes to the sea level rise. So particularly the sea level rise takes place because of these two mechanisms. One is thermal expansion of the ocean water and another is melting of ice sheets and the glaciers. Maybe also it can be seen in the terms of ice loss and ice caps. That is what we may say that is the mountain glaciers. So due to this sea level rise, certain changes in the ocean currents and circulation
are taking
are,
are taking
are
place.
taking place.
The
The
changes,
changes,
for
for
example,
example,
impact on
impact on
sea level
sea level
patterns,
patterns,
that is
that is
climate
climate
change.
change.
नहीं नहीं इसका ऑडियो मत कनेक्ट करना है हटा दो
We were discussing the changes which takes place due to the sea level rise, that the lot of changes take place in ocean currents and the circulation patterns of the oceans, which impacts the sea level patterns particularly. We know that the climate change alters ocean currents and the circulation patterns affecting the regional sea levels. For example, changes in the Gulf Stream can lead to localized sea level rise in many of the areas, while the other regions may experience relative sea level decline. If somewhere the sea level rise is taking place, so in other places related to it, the sea level decline may be observed. Even a sort of feedback mechanism exists. For example, if we see the albedo effect, as the ice and snow melts, they generally exposes the darker ocean or land surfaces, which absorbs now more heat. When the ice melts, the exposure of the surfaces that absorbs more heat, further which accelerates the warming, and which further this warming accelerates the ice melting. So it creates a feedback loop that contributes to the ongoing sea level rise. Not only this, but it also increases the atmospheric moisture because rising temperature, there is warming of air takes place. And we know that the warm air hold more moisture, leading to the increased precipitation in various regions. This can contribute to the rising sea levels, especially in the areas experiencing land subsidence. For example, if you're talking about the land subsidence, there are various natural and human induced land subsidence. Some are many of the coastal areas are experiencing land subsidence, particularly due to the natural geological processes, groundwater extraction, and other human activities. This type of subsidence exacerbates the impact of rising sea levels and leads to greater flooding risk. Several, even the variations in the sea level rise have been observed region wise. That is, overall uneven distribution can be seen in the sea level rise, which is not uniform globally. Some regions may experience higher rate of rise due to factors like ocean currents, land subsidence, local geologic conditions. For example, United States, East Coast and Gulf of Mexico are experiencing more rapid sea level rise compared to the other regions. This sea level rise impacts highly the communities and the ecosystem. I'm talking about the coastal communities here. The increased flooding due to the sea level rise, it is one of the great risk of coastal flooding, particularly during the storms and the high tides. This poses threat to the coastal infrastructure, homes, and the ecosystems. Not only this, we have already talked about the saltwater intrusion due to the rising sea level, which can lead to the saltwater intrusion into the freshwater aquifers, which can further threaten the drinking water supplies and the agricultural land. Not only this, coastal erosion takes place due to the sea level rise and the displacement of the communities, because the coastal communities may face displacement due to the rising sea level and increased flooding, leading to the social and economic changes. It also impacts the marine ecosystem. If we analyze these rising sea levels, can inundate coastal habitats such as wetlands, mangroves, which serves as important ecosystems for biodiversity and coastal protection. Coral reefs, changes in the sea level and water temperature can impact coral reef health, leading to the bleaching and loss of biodiversity. So these are, we can say, we have discussed some crisp about the how the climate change is impacting the sea level rise and how the sea level rise is impacting the coastal areas, the communities, and the ecosystems.